Hi, it's Florian, and in this video we're going to talk about weapons, or how to develop them, and if you should develop them. That is the real question. So as an engineer, you will get into contact with developing for the military or for the defense industry. It's often abbreviated with A&D, so aerospace and defense, but it usually means also defense, or building weapons or stuff that has to do with the military. And in this video, I'm going to talk to about how I came in touch with that, my thoughts about it, and what you can learn from it maybe. So I got in touch with all this military stuff quite early in my career when I did my internship in my university studies at a company called Thales. They are a big A&D company, and I remember once I was in the office and I saw a map of all the locations they had in Germany, and most of them were military stuff. I was working for airport things like landing systems, but most of it was military. It was rocket fuel, air defense systems, marine stuff, and so on. So I thought, hey, this company is making a lot of money by producing stuff that is meant to destroy other things. That was the first time I really thought about that. But I didn't really make up my mind. I thought a bit it was cool to develop things that can destroy other stuff at that time. When I then continued and did my master's thesis in university, or diploma thesis it was called at that time, my supervisor asked the question, if you could develop the ultimate death laser, would you do it? And I said no, because I don't want to be the one who developed the ultimate death laser, but he said yes, because else someone else would do it anyway. So there's two major, I guess, philosophical things you can say. One is, I don't want to be the one who does it, and the other one says, there will be someone who does it, so why it shouldn't be you? You can't explain that. So that was the second time. And then in my first job, the first thing I actually did there, after getting a bit into the job, was developing the software for a modem that is used at the German army. It was meant to replace a modem that they had already and that was obsolete, and they needed a replacement for it. And it is mostly used as a fiber optic thing to communicate with, I don't know, different locations. But it can also be used to remotely trigger rocket launches and stuff like that. And the interesting thing was, a colleague of mine, he really wanted to know what this thing is going to do, because he didn't want to develop something that actually kills people. So he had a limit where he said, I'm okay with doing stuff for the military. I'm not happy about it, but I'm okay with it as long as it isn't meant to directly hurt someone. So, I mean, the military buys everything from a kitchen to a I don't know, a rocket ship. It's different things. But at that time, I already realized it's very hard to get out of this. So I was at a communication company who didn't advertise to do stuff for the army. It was more like data centers and stuff like that. And but they also they went there immediately because it's great business. So usually the military pays a lot of money because they need specialized stuff and rugged stuff and so on, and it's very expensive and very low volume, and that's why it's so lucrative for companies to go there. But it was the first time I really actually did something that was meant to be used somehow in the military. The next time I went in touch with it was during my PhD, where when I was finished and colleagues of mine was also finished, he said, I want to do stuff that is A&D things. And he Googled in for job openings in Germany and Austria and so on, and Switzerland, what can you do if you really want to get into this industry? And I was surprised how many there are, from artillery stuff to torpedoes to air defense systems to whatever. So if you really want to go into that direction, you of course can. That there's not a problem to get into it. It's everywhere in Germany. So you don't know that. So it's not something people advertise. No one who develops artillery, guns, really wants to advertise that, because it's not the nicest thing to do, and it's very controversial, as you might also see from that video. And there are a lot of different opinions around that. After my PhD, I was at a company who sold optical transceivers, and there was the German military secret service there. Sometimes they also needed communication stuff, so optical transceivers to do whatever they do with it, but they buy everything. So it's not that you can really avoid it. You will always do something that can be used potentially by someone who wants to, I don't know, do something bad with it. And also something brave or whatever you call it, but you can't avoid that. And in my job that I'm doing now, it's test and measurement things, so measurement instruments and sensors and stuff like that. And they are all over the military. They are, of course, also all over the normal world. So, I don't know, to weigh something or to measure something that's quite common everywhere. But it's also used a lot in I don't know, tank factories, maintenance centers, submarines, aeroplanes, helicopters, turbine testing for whatever aircraft and stuff like that. So it's not something that is intended to be directly used by the military, but it's something that you can, of course, also use there, and it is very helpful there. So whatever you try to do, you can't really avoid this. The moment you say, I want to be an engineer and engineer something, it can always be used for something that you might not like it to be used. It doesn't matter where your standpoint is. Maybe it's you have no problem with developing for the military, but maybe you have problem if a military power uses it against your own people. That might also happen because all of that stuff is, of course, sold globally. And you can't avoid that. You can't control it, especially if you are in a position where you're just a software engineer or whatever. There's no way you can avoid it. And you can't avoid that this is going to happen, so that someone will use it for A&D stuff, also aerospace and defense stuff. And that's important just to keep in mind. I mean, if you get an engineer, you can control something. So you can control that you don't build the bomb yourself, but you can't control that you build something that is used to build the bomb, or to throw it or drop it or aim it or whatever. That is something you can't control. So that's first of all I would say, comprehension of how I see the world is. And the question is now, what do I do with it? So I'm not, or I was not okay to develop, I think the things that can kill people. If it supports it, I don't care because I can't control it. But I wasn't okay with it during peacetime, I must say. So now that peace is not around everywhere in Europe, you think about, would I be willing, if I'm directly threatened or my country is directly threatened, to do more than I was willing to do in peace times? And the answer for me is yes. So I would contribute more to also having weapons that are really lethal and not only the stuff that is going around it. But that changed. I think it's always a point of view that you have, not only because of your ethical constraints or ethical things, but also because of the world around you. So if it's very peaceful, you might have the option to say, I'm not okay with all of that, with all of the defense stuff. But the more threatening it becomes, the more okay people might get with it. That's just my reflection. But in the end, it's up to everyone. But what I would advise you to do when you want to become an engineer, or if you are an engineer, to just think about or reflect on how do you think it should be. What are you willing to do, and where are your limits? Where do you say, this is something I won't do, or this is something I will deliberately do? I want to support my country and my army and my whatever, and I'm deliberately going in a company that develops torpedoes or stuff like that. So I would really advise also young engineers or people who think about studying it to reflect what your ethical opinion on it is. And I can tell you it might change over time, depending on, of course, how you change and how your environment changes. But it's good to have that figured out before you get into the situation where you need to decide it, because once you are in it, it's very hard to say, I want to get out of it, or I don't want to, because that means you quit your job in the end. So that's my reflections on it. If you have some reflections, please feel free to comment on this video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you like the channel, subscribe. Have a great day and goodbye.